There has been a pretty considerable shift of thinking from the pro-choice side that many people may not have noticed. And that is nowadays their arguments are deeply rooted in philosophy. Now, I definitely don't see that as a bad thing. Philosophy is extremely important. As the old saying goes, science can tell us what is, but philosophy tells us what should be. For example, science tells us that men and women are chromosomally different, but philosophy tells us that despite their differences, we should be treated as equals. Now, if you can remember, there was a time when people used to argue that a fetus wasn't actually a human being, but to their dismay, biology and embryology says, no, it actually is a human being. So then the argument quickly shifted to, okay, so it is a human being, but it's not a human person. And that, my friends, is a philosophical distinction. And this is a popular argument. It's held by people such as Dr. Willie Parker. Dr. Willie Parker is a physician, and he's done many, many abortions throughout his career. And in his debate with Mike Adams, he seems to quite unashamedly agree that yes, he's killed many human beings. And he also makes this distinction between a human being and a human person.
So I responded to your criticism.
You've described what I do. So what is your point?
My point is that it intentionally kills an innocent human being. Would you concede the point?
I started my first concession was to your first two syllogisms,
Okay.
that abortion kills a human being. It is the intentional disruption of a pregnancy that kills a human being. And I made the distinction in that's why I asked you to be more precise in your definition of why you say abortion kills a human being, but you've never said abortion kills a person.
Just one final question. How many innocent human beings have you intentionally killed in your life's work?
I don't know. I don't
You've
measure
lost
my work.
count.
I don't.
You've lost count.
If it's a million,
10,000?
20,000.
20,000?
What's the difference?
What's the difference
what's the
between
difference?
20,000 and 30,000?
Yeah.
10,000 dead human beings.
Okay,
That's the difference.
okay. So that's morally more culpable than killing one person. Dr. Adams talked about human beings, but he never once mentioned person. And the personhood of a woman. We can debate about whether or not a fetus is a person, but he never once mentioned personhood. He talked about human beings, and I agree. I agree with him. Women don't give birth to puppies. So fetuses are human beings, but they're not people.
Now, if you'll notice, he claims that the mother is a human person while the fetus is not. So therefore, we must ask, what's the difference between the mother and the fetus that makes the mother a person? Well, I think the answer is very simple, in that the mother is born and the fetus is not. So therefore, you get your personhood the moment that you're born. Now, I ask you to please just hear me out on this. So imagine for a moment in your mind a timeline. And at one end you have conception, when a human being is formed, and at the other end you have birth, when human personhood is established. Now, in your worldview, in the pro-choice worldview, what is it exactly that's keeping the human being from becoming a human person? Well, the answer, as you've probably guessed, it's you and your decision to have an abortion. And I just really want you to think about this for a moment, okay? The claim is that somebody doesn't get their human rights until they become a person, yet you are the only obstacle keeping them from progressing to the point that you predetermined in which they get their rights. So, in other words, you're justifying killing them by saying it's okay because they're not a person and therefore they don't have their rights yet. While at the same time, the reason that they are not a person is because you have actively kept them from progressing to the point in which you consider them to be a person. Can you see the issue with that? Can you see why it's just circular and downright wrong? Please stop justifying the killing of human beings by claiming that they did not reach the standard of personhood that you kept them from attaining.